Chapter 1771. Shocking the World. At that moment, in the sea continent, the soaring heaven mansion, which once possessed a lot of power that could cause many powerhouses and sects to be extremely frightened, had been reduced to a piece of ruins. A great number of bodies and a great amount of blood could be seen everywhere. Emperor God Xianxia and his group of people were standing at the void on top of the soaring heaven mansion. However, they were deathly silent and they did not say anything. As for the large number of surrounding cultivators who were observing the battle, their throats were restless and similarly, they did not dare to speak. At that moment, even more people were in shock. In the battle on that very day, Jian Wushuang's abilities had caused them to be completely stunned. By himself, he had destroyed the big protective formation of the soaring heaven mansion, charged into the soaring heaven mansion, killed 3 Sir Gods of the soaring heaven king palace as well as many of the real gods and universe gods. In the end, he had fought with Emperor God Xianxia who had hurried over and he was not at a disadvantage at all. Even though Emperor God Xianxia had used his God Slayer arrow, Jian Wushuang still remained standing with pride and he swaggered off in the end. What kind of earth-shaking stunt was that? Palace Master. Sir God Qingfu came to the side of Emperor God Xianxia and said with a trembling body, "Are we just going to look on as Jian Wushuang leaves? What else can we do? I have already used the God Slayer arrow. However, I was able to neither kill nor injure him seriously. Even if the 3 of you and I were to team up, would we really be able to keep him here?" Emperor God Xianxiao snorted coldly. Upon hearing that, Sir God Qingfu and the 2 top Sir Gods at the side could not help but become silent. That's right. If they did not want to look on as Jian Wushuang left, what else could they do? It should be known that Emperor God Xianxiao had already taken action personally. Moreover, he had used the God Slayer arrow. However, he was still unable to kill Jian Wushuang. Although the soaring heaven king palace's base had stronger trump cards, most of them could only be unleashed in the base and there were not many of them which could be brought out. Moreover, even if they were to use all the trump cards that they could bring out, would they really be able to kill Jian Wushuang for sure? In the battle today, the soaring heaven king palace lost a great amount of abilities. Moreover, if I am not wrong, Jian Wushuang will continue to go on a rampage in the sea continent and he might even continue his massacre into the soaring heaven land. By then, it will be even more troublesome. Emperor God Xianxiao clenched his fists tightly and his eyes shone with a shrill light. Let's go back first. The soaring heaven king palace has to think of a surefire plan to kill him. Even if we are unable to kill him, we absolutely cannot allow him to go on a rampage wantonly in the territories of the soaring heaven king palace. In no time, Emperor God Xianxiao had brought the remaining experts of the soaring heaven king palace with him and returned to their base in the soaring heaven land. As for the large number of cultivators who were fortunate enough to observe the battle in the soaring heaven mansion, they were in a huge uproar. All of them knew that after that battle, the soaring heaven mansion was crippled. In the future, the soaring heaven king palace might send experts over to take control. However, it would not be soon. At that moment, the most pressing matter for the soaring heaven king palace was Jian Wushuang. The sea continent is about to change. When Jian Wushuang charged into the soaring heaven mansion alone, all the powerhouses in the eternal chaotic world got the news right away. In no time, the news of the results of the battle had spread. 3 Sir Gods of the soaring heaven king palace were killed. When Jian Wushuang fought with Emperor God Xianxiao Hedan, he was not in a disadvantage at all and in the end, he swaggered off. At once, the Sanctuary Alliance was in an uproar and everyone was shocked. Countless people felt that it was unbelievable. How is this possible? No matter what, Jian Wushuang is still a real god. Although he is an inverse cultivator, he can't be this strong, right? A real god is actually able to fight a head-on battle with an emperor god and not be in a disadvantage? Ha, this Jian Wushuang is too nature-defying. Even real god Wu Bei, who once achieved the top of a real god, barely possessed the fighting capabilities of a top Sir God when he was in his peak. Compared to Jian Wushuang, he is extremely far away. In the whole eternal chaotic world, perhaps there is only one person who can be compared to him. Emperor Bai. Many experts had already stopped comparing Jian Wushuang to real god Wu Bei. Instead, they compared him to Emperor Bai. After all, Emperor Bai was an inverse cultivator and he had grown to become what he was from a real god. At that moment, the Sanctuary Alliance recognized him as the most powerful person. Perhaps only the fighting capabilities of Emperor by when he had been a real god might be stronger than that of Jian Wushuang. At the same time that everyone was exclaiming in admiration with regards to the battle in the soaring heaven mansion. In the Thunderbolt Island, in a courtyard at the highest peak of the Sanctuary Mountain where many top experts of the Sanctuary Alliance lived in. Atop a single plank bridge which stretched across a brook, there was an old man who wore simple grey clothes, and he was sitting down and holding a bamboo pole. As for his body, it was leaning against a wooden peg which was beside him. Although he looked like he was fishing, in actual fact, he had already closed his eyes and he was snoring softly at the same time. This grey-clothed old man had obviously fallen asleep. Moreover, he had remained in the same posture on the single plank bridge for a total of 13,000 years. All of a sudden, a layer of ripples appeared on the seal beside the courtyard. Although the ripples dissipated quickly, the grey-clothed old man still noticed them. Even though his eyes remained closed, he could still raise his eyebrows. "East Royal, how come you're free to come here?" The grey-clothed old man's voice could be heard within the courtyard. A silver-haired, middle-aged man appeared on the single-plank bridge abruptly, and he sat down beside the grey-clothed old man right away. The middle-aged man's eyes were as vast as millions upon millions of constellations, and he said indifferently, "In the whole Sanctuary Alliance, the two of us are the only great emperors. Hence, isn't it normal for me to look for you? Those old bastards are living such a comfortable life and they have completely left the Sanctuary Alliance, which is in a mess. To the both of us," the grey-clothed old man curled his lips. "Stop complaining. Since both of us lost the bet back then, according to what we agreed upon, both of us have to oversee the Sanctuary Alliance for 5 million years. Now, not even half of that time has passed," the middle-aged man sneered. "It's all right now. Tell me your objective for coming." The grey-clothed old man's eyes were still closed. "This is a piece of news that I have just obtained. Take a look." The middle-aged man passed a token over. The grey-clothed old man took the token and skimmed through it. All of a sudden, he opened his eyes which had been closed all the while, and a pair of dark grey eyes were revealed. "Jian Wushuang? As a real god, he killed 4 Sir Gods of the Soaring Heaven King Palace in succession. Moreover, when he fought with Emperor God Xianxia head-on, he was not at a disadvantage at all." The grey-clothed old man revealed a surprised expression. Even he was surprised by the piece of news. "I have already confirmed the authenticity of this piece of news. It is indeed true. Moreover, Emperor God Xianxia has given his all, and he even used the God Slayer arrow in the end. However, even with the God Slayer arrow, Jian Wushuang was still not injured in the slightest. Now, the Soaring Heaven King Palace is having a huge headache with regards to Jian Wushuang," the middle-aged man laughed. The Soaring Heaven King Palace's way of doing things have always been unreasonable and they should pay for it. However, this little kid who is called Jian Wushuang is really impressive. Even though he fought with Emperor God Xianxia as a real god, he was still not defeated. If such abilities were compared to Emperor Bai back when he was still a real god, they should not be too different, the grey-clothed old man muttered. Chapter 1772, Heaven and Earth Supremes. Of course, the grey-robed elderly was just guessing. After all, no one knew how strong Emperor Bai was when he was at real god realm. He was too ancient. Since ancient times and the first era's passing, there has been hardly anyone like this impressive young man. If he were to continue to grow, it would be totally possible for him to become the second Emperor Bai, the grey-robed elderly muttered. Then, he turned to look at the middle-aged man. "East Royal, did you come to see me because of this?" "Yes," the middle-aged man nodded. "According to the segregation of power, Jian Wushuang fits the criteria to be listed on Heaven and Earth Supremes." "Heaven and Earth Supremes?" The grey-robed elderly squinted his eyes and then nodded. "If so, let's announce it to the public." The two super expert of Great Emperor level made a decision and immediately spread the mysterious ranking list at a terrifyingly fast speed. The announcement of the ranking list did not stir any great commotion on Thunderbolt Island because most of the experts in Sanctuary Alliance weren't qualified to get in contact with the ranking list. However, the overlords at the peak of the eternal chaotic world and the Almythes were surprised when they received the ranking list. Heaven and Earth Supremes. Jian Wushuang is listed on Heaven and Earth Supremes. Heaven and Earth Supremes. Any one of them is a super existence that shakes the universe. Only the few top Sir Gods meet the criteria to be listed on Heaven and Earth Supremes. Jian Wushuang is just a real god and he has already reached such a level? I remember when I first heard Jian Wushuang's name, it was a few tens of thousands of years ago when real god Wu Bei's cave dwelling was opened. Jian Wushuang wiped out all geniuses in the realm of universe gods and got himself 2 white blaze fruit trees. He then gained fame. The second time I heard of him, he fought with Sir God Qianlan from Soaring Heaven King Palace in the 8th lair and he injured Sir God Qianlan badly. This time, it is my 3rd time hearing his name and he is already listed on Heaven and Earth Supremes. Too fast. This Jian Wushuang has improved too quickly. It is so unbelievable. If he continues to grow at the current speed, he might become the 2nd Emperor by countless super existences was shocked because of the ranking list. At the same time, there were many almighties that were roaring and bellowing in anger because of the ranking list. One should know that the ranking list was a far-fetched desire of many almighties. Many almighties and ancient existences couldn't be listed, but Jian Wushuang, a young man that had only cultivated for tens of thousands of years, had been listed on the list. Once listed on Heaven and Earth Supremes, one would be an authority in eternal chaotic world. Sea continent, on a nameless mountain, Jian Wushuang was sitting alone. He was recovering his wounds and divine power. During the battle with Soaring Heaven Mansion, although he killed 3 Sir Gods, many real gods and universe gods from Soaring Heaven King Place, he was injured by the attack of God-Slayer arrow shot by Emperor God Xianxia. But such an injury could be recovered very soon with King of Venomous Worms. Phew! Jian Wushuang let out a murky breath and he slowly opened his eyes. At first, I thought as long as I didn't barge into Soaring Heaven King Palace's old lair in Soaring Heavenland, I wouldn't be threatened and it would be easy to exterminate Soaring Heaven Mansion. However, I obviously belittled Soaring Heaven King Palace's power, Jian Wushuang muttered. Soaring Heaven Mansion was only Soaring Heaven King Palace's 2nd lair and it was located on Sea Continent. One should know that the foundation of Soaring Heaven King Palace was in Soaring Heaven Land. Hence, their power in Soaring Heaven Land should be the strongest. Especially the old lair in Soaring Heaven Land was a danger spot that even top Emperor gods didn't dare to wallop. Jian Wushuang had never thought of barging into the old lair of Soaring Heaven King Palace as well. However, Jian Wushuang had never expected that even though he didn't barge into the old lair of Soaring Heaven King Palace, Emperor God Xianxia alone could also injure him. The God-Slayer arrow had formed a fair threat against him. Based on the foundation of Soaring Heaven King Palace, they might be able to play a scarier and more ferocious trump card than the God-Slayer arrow. Of course, even if that was true, Jian Wushuang wasn't afraid. After all, he had never once given play to any of his trump cards. Star Destruction Skill, Mountain River Map, Secret Skill of Star Palace, these were all Jian Wushuang's trump cards. A single move could destroy the universe. With these trump cards on hand, Jian Wushuang had the capital to be fearless against Soaring Heaven King Palace. Just then, Jian Wushuang, well done, Hall Master Yuan sent him a message. You heard the news? Jian Wushuang immediately replied. Of course. You made a scene in Sea Continent. The entire Sanctuary Alliance, the entire eternal chaotic world are in a tumultuous hubbub. How could I not know? Hall Master Yuan chuckled and he complimented. To be frank, I thought you could kill 1 or 2 Sir Gods in Soaring Heaven King Palace and that would be impressive enough. I never expected you to barge into Soaring Heaven Mansion and killed 4 Sir God from Soaring Heaven King Palace at one goal, including Sir God Kai Xing. You and Emperor God Xianxia were well matched too. TSK. Hall Master Yuan, you didn't message me to tell me this, right? Jian Wushuang laughed. Of course not. Hall Master Yuan became serious. Jian Wushuang, I'm going to send you a ranking list. You should take a look carefully. Ranking list? What ranking list? Jian Wushuang was confused. Heaven and Earth Supreme's ranking list. Hall Master Yuan didn't say much but sent a boundless ranking list over. Jian Wushuang received them with care. After he received all, he read through the ranking list. Jian Wushuang's eyes dilated in surprise. This is almighty ranking list? Yes, and no, Hall Master Yuan answered. Jian Wushuang was shocked. Jian Wushuang, you have yet to hear about Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, right? Hall Master Yuan asked. It is my first time hearing this. Jian Wushuang nodded. That's right, Hall Master Yuan laughed as he explained. Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List. You have to first understand the meaning of Heaven and Earth Supreme. Heaven and Earth Supreme is referring to super expert who can establish a great force and shake the entire eternal chaotic world. Such experts are normally emperor gods. Of course, eternal chaotic world is so huge. There's 10 sanctuaries, countless holy kingdoms, various territories. There are many almighties. There are some very amazing Sir Gods too. Even when they fight with Emperor Gods, they could be evenly matched or they could survive Emperor God's attack. Sir Gods like that are qualified to be Heaven and Earth Supremes as well. The Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list is announced by Sanctuary Alliance personally. They organized and made a list of Heaven and Earth Supremes that could frighten eternal chaotic world, then they ranked them according to their power. It then formed the ranking list of the highest level. To be listed on the ranking list means that the person has already reached the top of the pyramid in eternal chaotic world. Chapter 1773, Ranking. As Jian Wushuang listened, he could not help but be visibly moved. The Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list represented the group of top existences in the eternal chaotic world. Among them, anyone could be an overlord of the eternal chaotic world. Jian Wushuang, the battle between you and Emperor God Xianxia has allowed you to get into the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list as well. At the same time, ever since the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list was released, you were also the first person who got into the ranking list as a real god. As for your ranking, you can take a good look at it yourself, Hall Master Yuan said. Jian Wushuang browsed through the ranking in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list carefully at once. First in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, Emperor Bai. With regards to the first ranking, Jian Wushuang was not surprised at all. Emperor Bai was the strongest person in the Sanctuary Alliance and he was recognized as the number one by the whole eternal chaotic world. He was an almighty-level inverse cultivator which was a super existence who could kill great emperors easily. Next. Second, Red Dragon King. Third, Abysmal Saint Master. Fourth, Ancestor Qian Chen. Fifth, Great Emperor Zishu. Sixth, Colored Glaze Emperor. 14th, Purple Moon Emperor. 15th, Yang Zun from the 2nd to 15th place. All of them were great emperor-level super experts. It should be known that the Sanctuary Alliance only had a total of 13 great emperors. As for the 2 additional great emperors, they did not join the Sanctuary Alliance. After the 15 great emperors, there was a large number of emperor gods. The emperor god ranked 16th was called Underworld God. The Underworld God. Jian Wushuang also looked at the information regarding the Underworld God. The Underworld God had only become a peak expert 4 million years ago. To date, his training time amounted to less than 5 million years. 5 million years might seem very long to Jian Wushuang. However, to many of the Emperor God Almighties, 5 million years was considered too short. In the eternal chaotic world, most of the Almighties had lived for over 10 million years, while some of them had lived for tens of millions of years or even hundreds of millions of years. For example, about the oldest person, Emperor Bai, in the Sanctuary Alliance, it was said that he was a remnant of the First Era. Hence, he had definitely lived for an extremely long period of time already. As for the Underworld God, he was able to make it into the 16th position on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list and become the number one among the Emperor Gods after training for less than 5 million years. With that, he was only inferior to the 15 great emperors and one could imagine how powerful and talented he was. Moreover, previously, the Sanctuary Alliance had always thought that he was an expert who was the closest to, and also had the highest hopes of, becoming a new great emperor. As for his accomplishments, they were extremely brilliant as well. He had once competed against 4 top emperor gods by himself. In the end, he had killed 2 of them and seriously injured the remaining 2 people. 11 emperor gods had once teamed up to deploy a shocking killing formation to besiege him. In the end, he had torn the killing formation apart and killed all of them. It was also rumored that the Underworld God had fought with a great emperor before. Moreover, he had lasted for a very long period of time against the great emperor. With such brilliant accomplishments, even Jian Wushuang clicked his tongue in admiration when he saw it. The Underworld God could indeed be recognized as the number one among the emperor gods. Even with 4 top emperor gods teaming up, they were still defeated by him easily. If I were to come across him, I would probably have no way of resisting, Jian Wushuang gasped. However, it was fortunate that the underworld god was someone from the Sanctuary Alliance and he was not connected to the lineage of Star in any way. Hence, he would absolutely not make trouble for Jian Wushuang for no reason. After that, Jian Wushuang continued to look at the rankings. For the top emperor gods who were behind the underworld god, all of them had shocking abilities. However, compared to the underworld god, their accomplishments were obviously lacking. In no time, Jian Wushuang saw a name. 22nd in the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List, Emperor God Qian Ling. Damn it! The strongest person in the Soaring Heaven King Palace actually has such a high ranking in the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List? Jian Wushuang exclaimed with admiration. The Soaring Heaven King Palace had a total of 2 founders who were both emperor gods. Among their 2 emperor gods, Emperor God Xianxia oversaw the Soaring Heaven land. As for Emperor God Qian Ling, he traveled in the second layer throughout the year. Although the both of them had founded the Soaring Heaven King Palace together, in terms of abilities, Emperor God Qian Ling was a lot more powerful than Emperor God Xianxia. 22nd in the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List. Putting the 15 great emperors aside, Emperor God Qian Ling could be said to be ranked 7th out of the large number of emperor gods in the eternal chaotic world. This was already an extremely high ranking. Not only did this mean that he stood at the very top of the emperor gods, this also meant that he could suppress any normal top emperor gods if he were to encounter them. For example, Emperor God Qian Ling could probably kill emperor gods who were of a similar level to Emperor God Shui Ji Yu. If this Emperor God Qian Ling were to come out of the second layer and hunt me down, he would definitely be a threat to me. However, I have many trump cards with me. If I were to really go all out, he might not be able to do anything against me, Jian Wushuang murmured. He was extremely confident in the great number of trump cards he possessed. Jian Wushuang continued to look at the rankings further back. When he reached the 31st position of the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List, his eyes paused again. At the same time, he revealed a smile. The person in the 31st position was the most important person in the lineage of Star, the Star Palace Master. Although the Palace Master's abilities are unable to match the abilities of Emperor God Qian Ling, he is not too far away from him. Moreover, the Palace Master's trump card is even more powerful, Jian Wushuang laughed. The information on the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List also mentioned about the Star Palace Master, strongest trump card, the secret skill of Star Palace. As soon as it was unleashed, he could kill many emperor gods. Even if it were the underworld god who was ranked first among the emperor gods, for a short amount of time, he could only take evasive measures. The Palace Master has also cultivated the second volume of the secret skill of 7 Star. As soon as he unleashes it, his power will rise by 100 times. Within a breath's time, the fighting capabilities that he can unleash will indeed rival that of a normal great emperor, Jian Wushuang said. Jian Wushuang continued looking at the rankings. When he saw the 48th position, his expression changed abruptly. The person in the 48th position of the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List was Emperor God Shui Ji Yu. Emperor God Shui Ji Yu is indeed very powerful and he is already extremely close to the top of an emperor god. Hence, it is normal for him to be ranked 48th. The thing is, he is already dead? Jian Wushuang had a puzzled expression. He knew that Emperor God Shui Ji Yu had died in the Buddhist Demon Sea. However, only him as well as a few people in the lineage of Star knew about this. Moreover, the lineage of Star did not make this piece of news public. As such, the Sanctuary Alliance still had no idea that Emperor God Shui Ji Yu had already died. Therefore, they still included his name on the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List. Emperor God Shui Ji Yu was ranked 48th. As for Emperor God Xianxia, he was ranked 56th as his abilities were weaker than those of Emperor God Shui Ji Yu. When I fought with Emperor God Xianxia head-on, I was never at a disadvantage. As such, I was able to get onto the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List. Since Emperor God Xianxia is ranked 56th, my ranking should be extremely close to his, Jian Wushuang muttered. As expected, Jian Wushuang's eyes brightened up. He had already seen his own name. 61st in the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List, Jian Wushuang, a real god inverse cultivator. Chapter 1774. Never-ending massacre. They even gave a clear indication of my realm and my identity as an inverse cultivator, Jian Wushuang smiled. As for his battle achievements, they didn't even bring up the incident where he had severely injured Sir God Qianlan in the 8th lair, only his battle achievement on Sea Continent. He'd killed Sir God Kai Xing with one palm, barged into Soaring Heaven Mansion alone, broke the formation of Everlasting Green formed by 4 Sir Gods and killed 3 of them. At the end, he was well matched with Sir God Xianxia. Such a battle achievement is more than enough to be listed on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. However, to be in the 61st place, I'm afraid it isn't convincing enough. Jian Wushuang rubbed his nose. He had fought with Sir God Xianxiao. Although the fight was too close to call, it was because it was too close to call that it was hard to determine. After all, those who didn't watch the battle, how would they know if Sir God Xianxiao gave his all? And how would they know if Jian Wushuang was severely injured in the battle? In short, it was rather unconvincing to be in the 61st place with such a battle achievement. Who cares? If there was anyone who is unhappy with it, I'll fight with them until they are convinced. Jian Wushuang smiled. Those listed further down the list were ordinary Emperor Gods and some top Sir Gods who could be evenly matched with Emperor Gods. The list ended at the 132nd place. Among the 132 Heaven and Earth Supremes, there were 15 Great Emperor and 81 Emperor Gods, and the rest were top Sir Gods. It should be all the higher-ups in eternal chaotic world. Even if there were some hidden experts, there shouldn't be a lot of them. And of course, the experts under the command of a hidden dark force like Holocaust Sect and Akron Palace wouldn't be included in Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. After Jian Wushuang skimmed through the ranking list, he let out a heavy sigh. I never expected that there would be so many experts in eternal chaotic world. There were 15 great emperors and 81 emperor gods, Jian Wushuang muttered. Although my fighting power enabled me to be listed on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, I was merely in the 61st place. Although I am at the peak of the pyramid in eternal chaotic world, I am not the strongest. Only if I continuously break through and step foot on the 7th step of inverse cultivation as soon as possible, then I can become an almighty. By then, I should be able to compare favorably with the great emperor. By then, I will have the capital to run wild in eternal chaotic world. As of now, I am far from that. Then, Jian Wushuang stood up as he looked into the distance. At the end of his view, there was a huge mountain. The mountain had an Aryadeva crystal vein which was extremely rare. The crystal vein had been conquered by Soaring Heaven King Palace. They had more than 20 real gods, including 3 chaotic real gods who attended to garrison duty all year round. Swoosh! Jian Wushuang plunged and he arrived in the void above the mountain after a short while. The moment he appeared, rumble. An enormous amount of divine might spread across like the anger of the universe. Divine might and divine power compensated one another. Jian Wushuang's divine power was parallel to an emperor god's. Hence, the divine might was naturally at the emperor god level. As the terrifying divine might spread across the mountain, the cultivators in the mountain suddenly shivered in fear under the divine might. Within the range of my soul power, there are a total of 23 real gods. These real gods are all from Soaring Heaven King Palace. Real gods from Soaring Heaven King Palace have to die. Jian Wushuang harbored intense murderous intention and he immediately started a massacre. That day, Jian Wushuang came to the mountain and killed the 23 real gods of Soaring Heaven King Palace who guard the mountain in less than 10 breaths' time. He killed all of them without leaving anyone alive. Half a month later, Jian Wushuang appeared in a palace branch of Soaring Heaven King Palace on Sea Continent. Before countless cultivators' gazes, Jian Wushuang broke the palace branch into pieces with one palm. At the same time, he crushed the palace branch into dust. There were many experts in the palace branch, including 10 real gods. All of them died. Only the disciples who were weaker escaped by luck. 3 months later, on a huge island that was sealed off from the outside world, Jian Wushuang was in his crimson robe and he harbored boundless murderous intention. He took a stride forward and he wielded his sword. He cut the island into 2, then he swung his sword across. He killed all the real gods on the island. 6 months later, 3 real gods from Soaring Heaven King Palace returned to Soaring Heaven Land from other places. Before they arrived in Soaring Heaven King Palace, they met a swordsman in a crimson robe. The swordsman in a crimson robe only asked if the 3 of them were from Soaring Heaven King Palace. The three of them answered yes. Then the swordsman in crimson robe pointed and killed the three real gods instantly. 1 year later. Massacre. A never-ending bloodbath. Jian Wushuang had turned into death himself. He first started in Sea Continent, then to Soaring Heavenland that Soaring Heaven King Palace ruled over the years. He massacred the experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace all over. Whenever Jian Wushuang launched an attack, it would be experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace that were the level of real gods or higher. They stood almost no chance of escape. As for universe gods, those who were weak could escape, but those universe gods who were stronger would be killed by Jian Wushuang mercilessly. Regardless of Sea Continent or Soaring Heavenland, the territories that Soaring Heaven King Palace conquered were in a bloodbath carried out by Jian Wushuang. According to incomplete statistics, in the 10 years, the number of real gods from Soaring Heaven King Palace that were killed by Jian Wushuang was more than several hundreds. Among, there were over 30 eternal real gods and more than a dozen chaotic real gods. It had only been 10 years. The terrifying massacre shook the 2 pieces of land and shook the entire Sanctuary Alliance. It also shocked countless cultivators in eternal chaotic world. Death, demon, madman. All the titles fell upon Jian Wushuang. At first, they were in awe of Jian Wushuang's power. But then, the experts were terrified by Jian Wushuang's brutality and massacre skills. Luckily, Jian Wushuang was only aiming at Soaring Heaven King Palace. Hence, not everyone was in danger. In the 10 years, Soaring Heaven King Palace wasn't only in defense, they tried many ways and even Emperor God Xianxia got involved personally. However, Jian Wushuang wasn't weaker than Emperor God Xianxia. Jian Wushuang wanted to kill and Emperor God Xianxia couldn't do anything about it. He also intended to use his trump cards to kill Jian Wushuang. However, the trump cards that he could perform couldn't kill Jian Wushuang, and the stronger ones were required to be performed within the lair of Soaring Heaven King Palace. But Jian Wushuang wasn't stupid and he wouldn't barge into the lair of Soaring Heaven King Palace hastily. This also led to Jian Wushuang's never-ending massacre. However, the higher-ups in Soaring Heaven King Palace could only watch. Such a massacre shocked everyone. Chapter 1775. Recall this Jian Wushuang. Not only is he extremely talented, he killed with great resolve and he is no different from old bastards like us who have lived for many years. The path of the strong has always been full of ups and downs and every one of them was born from endless massacres. Now, the Soaring Heaven King Palace has become Jian Wushuang's stepping stone. I reckon that Jian Wushuang wants to use the Soaring Heaven King Palace to warn everyone of the consequences of provoking him. This time around, the Soaring Heaven King Palace has provoked a malignant star and it will be really miserable for them. HMPH, the Soaring Heaven King Palace's way of doing things has always been unreasonable. If not for them having such great backgrounds, they would have been destroyed a long time ago. This time around, they have finally suffered losses from someone who they thought was weak. Jian Wushuang has already been massacring to his heart's content for 10 years. The Soaring Heaven King Palace's Emperor God Xianxia has taken action many times. However, he was unable to do anything against him. If Jian Wushuang were to continue his massacre, no matter how many experts the Soaring Heaven King Palace had, the Soaring Heaven King Palace would run out of them eventually. I wonder what the Soaring Heaven King Palace will do next. Could it be that they would get Emperor God Qianling, who has always been traveling in the second lair, to return personally? Apart from that, there seems to be no other way. In the whole Sanctuary Alliance, countless experts were having a discussion enthusiastically. They were all discussing Jian Wushuang as well as the clash between Jian Wushuang and the Soaring Heaven King Palace. The past 10 years of massacre had allowed everyone to really know what kind of person Jian Wushuang was. As such, innumerable experts started to respect him. At the same time that they were shocked and exclaiming with admiration, all of them were guessing the next move of the Soaring Heaven King Palace. In a lofty palace in the Soaring Heaven King Palace, Emperor God Xianxia was sitting down on a throne which was 3 meters tall. Below him was a large number of high-level experts which included the few Sir Gods of the Soaring Heaven King Palace. Has the large number of real gods of the Soaring Heaven King Palace been recalled? Emperor God Qian God was looking down at one of the people below him. This person was Sir God Qing Fu. Palace Master, 99% of the Soaring Heaven King Palace's real gods who were in the Soaring Heavenland and Sea Continent have already returned. Only a few real gods are still on their way back, Sir God Ching Fu said respectfully. However, he was still filled with dissatisfaction. Palace Master, do we really have to recall all the real gods back to our base just because of this Jian Wushuang? HMH, even though things have already reached this stage, you are still underestimating him? Emperor God Xianxia gave a cold snort. Don't forget. Jian Wushuang has now gotten into the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, and he is already one of the Heaven and Earth Supremes of the eternal chaotic world. Even if I were to take action, I would be unable to do anything against him. Currently, he has gone on a crazy killing spree in the soaring heavenland and sea continent. If I were to not call back all those real gods, wouldn't that mean I am waiting for all of them to be killed by Jian Wushuang? As soon as Emperor God Xianxiao's words left his mouth, the whole hall went silent immediately. At the start, the soaring Heaven King Palace did not care about Jian Wushuang at all, and they had thought that with their abilities, killing Jian Wushuang would be the same as stepping on an ant and killing it. As for Jian Wushuang provoking the soaring Heaven King Palace, it was just the weak attacking the strong. However, no one had expected Jian Wushuang's abilities to rise to such an extent in such a short period of time. Even with Emperor God Xianxiao taking action personally, he was still unable to do anything against him. To date, Jian Wushuang had gotten into the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, and he was already standing at the very top of the pyramid in the eternal chaotic world. No one dared to disregard such an expert. Even though that's the case, we are merely tackling the problem on the surface by recalling all the real gods. After all, the large number of experts of the soaring Heaven King Palace cannot possibly hide in the base all the time and not go out, right? Sir God Ching Fu said with a deep voice, we have to think of a way to kill Jian Wushuang. With this, we will be able to avoid any trouble in the future. Everyone around him nodded their heads in succession. However, they knew that it would not be easy to kill Jian Wushuang. Palace Master, why not get Lord Qianling to take action? Sir God Ching Fu only managed to say a few words. Big Brother cannot take action temporarily. Emperor God Xianxiao waved his hands. Not long ago, Big Brother sent me a message and told me that he had found an opportunity in the second lair. This opportunity was exceptional, and if he were to be able to obtain it, his abilities would skyrocket. Although he would not be able to become a great emperor, he would be able to reach a level similar to that of the underworld god. The underworld god. The few Sir Gods below were all shocked. The underworld god, the person recognized as the #1 among the emperor gods by the eternal chaotic world. He was a super existence who could kill top emperor gods easily. Moreover, his position among the emperor gods was just like the position of emperor by among the great emperors. If Emperor God Qianling were to be able to reach a level similar to that of the underworld god, it would be a very delightful thing to the soaring Heaven King Palace. Big Brother has been thinking of ways to obtain that opportunity. Now, he is at the critical moment. So how can he be interrupted by Jian Wushuang like this? Emperor God Xianxiao said. Since Lord Qianling is unable to take action, what about the high-level experts in the Sanctuary Alliance? After all, our soaring Heaven King Palace is a member of the Sanctuary Alliance. If we were to get them to come, Sir God Ching Fu said. Forget about the Sanctuary Alliance. Emperor God Qianling shook his head again. This Jian Wushuang is different from the others. He is an inverse cultivator who is extremely talented with unlimited potential. If he were to continue growing, there is even the hope of him achieving a level similar to that of Emperor Bai in the future. At the least, he will become a new great emperor. An expert like him with such potential is valued highly by the Sanctuary Alliance. If there is no need to, the old bastards in the Sanctuary Alliance will definitely not take action against Jian Wushuang. For example, although he is currently massacring real gods wantonly, he himself is still a real god. A real god massacring real gods. Moreover, he is only massacring the real gods of the soaring Heaven King Palace. Furthermore, the grudge acts as an appropriate reason for him to do so. As such, no matter how many real god he kills, the high-level experts in the Sanctuary Alliance will naturally not care about it. Moreover, there is another point. This Jian Wushuang has always been acting alone. From start to finish, the lineage of star behind him has never shown themselves. Emperor God Xianxiao's expression turned gloomy. Jian Wushuang alone was already very difficult to deal with. According to logic, if there were the lineage of star on top of that, there would be even more pressure on the Soaring Heaven King Palace. However, in actual fact, that was not the case. After all, the lineage of Star was a big powerhouse and there were many real God and universe God disciples under them. If the lineage of Star were to be involved, they could absolutely give them a taste of their own medicine. For example, if Emperor God Xianxia were to charge into the Star Land and massacre the real gods of the lineage of Star wantonly, the lineage of Star might not be able to stop him. With that, there would be a balance and the actions of both of them would be restricted. As such, Jian Wushuang would definitely not dare to continue his massacre. However, at that time, Jian Wushuang had always been acting alone and the lineage of Star had never shown themselves before. Hence, the clash this time around was Jian Wushuang's own personal matter and it was unrelated to the lineage of Star. Under such circumstances, if the Soaring Heaven King Palace were to fight all the way to the lineage of Star, they would start a great battle right away. Moreover, for this great battle, the Soaring Heaven King Palace would be in the wrong and probably none of the higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance would stand on their side. Chapter 1776. Appointment. If so, Soaring Heaven King Palace can't do anything about Jian Wushuang? Everyone in Soaring Heaven King Palace looked distressed. If we want to kill him, it is impossible as of now. But it isn't difficult if we only want Jian Wushuang to retreat. Emperor God Xianxia squinted his eyes. Send down my command. For the rest of the time, we of Soaring Heaven King Palace shall stay put in the old lair. Without my permission, no one gets to leave. Yes, the underlings immediately took the order. In Soaring Heaven Land, Jian Wushuang's massacre continued. However, as Soaring Heaven King Palace summoned all their experts back, it was very difficult for Jian Wushuang to find a target. However, Soaring Heaven King Palace's action shook Sanctuary Alliance. Soaring Heaven King Palace summoned all their experts back to Soaring Heaven Land and Sea Continent. Does Soaring Heaven King Palace intend to ostrich and have all the experts under their command hide in their old lair? Impossible. Soaring Heaven King Palace has always been arrogant. Their foundation and power is extraordinary. With Jian Wushuang alone, it will be impossible for him to force Soaring Heaven King Palace into such a position. If I'm not mistaken, Soaring Heaven King Palace definitely has their way to deal with Jian Wushuang. We shall see. The experts from various forces watched quietly. The time flew past. 1 month, 2 months, half a year. Soaring Heaven King Palace was extremely peaceful and there were no experts above real god level who left the old lair. The experts from all forces in Sanctuary Alliance was confused. Soaring Heaven King Palace really can't do anything about Jian Wushuang and they decided to be an ostrich? Just as most experts thought, Soaring Heaven King Palace finally made a move. Soaring Heaven King Palace spread news that Emperor God Xianxia would throw a banquet in Clear Sky City on Soaring Heaven Land in 1 month's time to see Jian Wushuang personally. The moment the news spread, everyone was shocked. Some said that Soaring Heaven King Palace meant that they had already set up a trap to kill Jian Wushuang and they were only waiting for his arrival. Some even said that Soaring Heaven King Palace couldn't do anything about Jian Wushuang. Hence, they had no choice but to talk to Jian Wushuang. In other words, Soaring Heaven King Palace yielded to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, who was the main character of the incident, naturally received the news at the first instant. To meet me? Jian Wushuang rubbed his nose and there was a malicious smile. Jian Wushuang, Soaring Heaven King Palace has always been barbaric. Ever since Emperor God Qianling and Emperor God Xianxiao established Soaring Heaven King Palace, they have only bowed to great emperors or experts like Underworld God. But now, although you have made Soaring Heaven King Palace suffered a great loss, the 2 greatest authorities, especially Emperor God Qianling, are still alive. They definitely won't yield to you so easily. Hence, this meetup might be a trap, Hall Master Yuan said. Trap? Jian Wushuang thought for a while and asked, Hall Master Yuan, is there any news about Emperor God Qianling's return? No. I have someone to guard at the second lair. I am sure that Emperor God Qianling is still in the second lair, Hall Master Yuan answered. How about the other experts on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List? Jian Wushuang asked. It's strange. The experts of Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List, besides the Sir God who was further back on the list that has always stayed in Soaring Heaven Land, there aren't any other experts who have returned to Soaring Heaven Land, Hall Master Yuan said. When Jian Wushuang and Soaring Heaven King Palace had fought head-on, Hall Master Yuan utilized Lineage of Star and used the resources in Sanctuary Alliance to keep watch of experts who could threaten Jian Wushuang. However, he didn't receive any news about any experts who went to Soaring Heavenland. Emperor God Qianling didn't return, nor did the experts on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list come back. How can Soaring Heaven King Palace kill me? Could it be with other trump cards? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. No way, if Soaring Heaven King Palace could really play any trump cards that could threaten me, they would have played them long ago. They definitely wouldn't wait until now. What could it be? Even Jian Wushuang had no idea what Soaring Heaven King Palace's intention was. Regardless of Soaring Heaven King Palace's intention, it's best that you don't go for the meetup, Hall Master Yuan advised. No, Soaring Heaven King Palace invited me sincerely. How can I not go? No matter what their plot is, even if there is a trap, I, Jian Wushuang, will deal with it. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. One should know that, even when he was the target of a scheme by Akron Palace back in Buddhist Demon Sea, he made a narrow escape and survived. His power increased tremendously too. If Akron Palace was capable of that, Jian Wushuang didn't think Soaring Heaven King Palace could be more clever than Akron Palace. Plus, Jian Wushuang was confident in his trump cards too. If you insist to go, go ahead. But just in case, I will report this to Palace Master and have Palace Master make a trip to Soaring Heavenland. If there were to be any unexpected events, Soaring Heaven King Palace wouldn't dare to attack hastily if Palace Master were to be there, Hall Master Yuan said. Okay, Jian Wushuang nodded and made a decision. 1 month later, it was clear and fresh. On Soaring Heavenland, in Clear Sky City, countless cultivators were gathered. The cultivators were naturally there to watch Jian Wushuang and Soaring Heaven King Palace's meetup. In the void above Clear Sky City, there was a pedestal floating in the air quietly. On the pedestal, there were 2 long, narrow tables. In front of one of the tables, a man in a golden robe sat with his eyes closed. The man in the golden robe was Emperor God Xianxia's original body. The cultivators gathered in Clear Sky City saw Emperor God Xianxia and they looked at him in awe. Emperor God Xianxia is one of the founders of Soaring Heaven King Palace. Such a legendary figure, I can finally see him with my own eyes. I can die with no regrets now. Although Emperor God Xianxia was amazing, I admire Jian Wushuang more. He is only in the realm of real God and he can shake Soaring Heaven King Palace. It is said that Emperor God Xianxia could only be evenly matched with him. Countless cultivators were talking among themselves. Just then, haha, Emperor God Xianxia, I'm sorry to make you wait. There was a burst of hearty laughter that reverberated in the universe. Then, there was a figure in a crimson robe that appeared and walked over from the void far away. He was walking slowly, but every step he took brought about a mysterious boundless divine might that was not second to Emperor God Xianxia. It spread along his footsteps. Countless cultivators lifted their heads simultaneously. Looking at the incomer, their eyes were filled with admiration and passion. It took a while until the figure in crimson reached the pedestal and came before Emperor God Xianxia. Emperor God Xianxia, who had been sitting there with his eyes closed, finally opened his eyes. He looked at Jian Wushuang solemnly and waved his hand. Take a seat. Jian Wushuang then sat down by the side of the empty long, narrow table in front of him. Chapter 1777. Unable to do anything as Jian Wushuang took his seat, the huge Clear Sky City quietened down completely. Everyone had raised their heads and they were looking at the stage on top. Only 2 people remained in their lines of vision. These 2 people were naturally Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Xianxia. 2 super experts who were in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. 2 super existences who could frighten the eternal chaotic world. Apart from the 2 of them, the small number of Sir Gods who had come with the Soaring Heaven King Palace did not have the right to stand on that stage. Atop the stage, Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Xianxia were 100 meters apart from each other. Their eyes looking at one another and glowing with a shrill light. The space had frozen completely a long time ago. After a long time, Emperor God Xianxia was the first to speak. Jian Wushuang, even I have no choice but to admire you. You actually dared to come for this appointment. Aren't you scared that I would set a trap here and besiege you? No matter what traps and trump cards your Soaring Heaven King Palace has, Go ahead and bring all of them out. No matter what they are, I, Jian Wushuang, will wipe them out by myself. Jian Wushuang said coldly. Is that so? Murderous intent shone in Emperor God Xianxia. At that moment, he wanted to take action right away and combine his attacks with some of the techniques that he had prepared in their current location previously to kill Jian Wushuang on the spot. If I were to take action, there would only be a 30% chance of me getting my way. Emperor God Xianxia was hesitating. However, his expression changed abruptly. The old monster of the Star Palace? Emperor God Xianxiao's eyes shrank violently. He had already noticed the Star Palace Master who was in the void nearby. However, the Star Palace Master did not show himself. Seems like you have made some preparations as well, Emperor God Xianxiao laughed coldly. He knew that since the Star Palace Master was nearby, it would be impossible for him to take action and kill Jian Wushuang straight away. Firstly, even if he were to go all out, he was only 30% sure that he could do it, and 30% was not high. Moreover, even if his luck were good and he was able to kill Jian Wushuang, at the critical moment, the Star Palace Master would probably not stand by and look on. However, as long as Jian Wushuang was not in a situation where he would die, the Star Palace Master would probably not take action at all. Emperor God Xianxiao, tell me bluntly, why did you get me to come here personally? Jian Wushuang laughed coldly. It's simple. I want you to leave the soaring heavenland and the sea continent, Emperor God Xianxiao said. Ha ha, my massacre has only just begun and you want me to leave now? On what grounds? Jian Wushuang sneered. With regards to the soaring heaven king palace which had attempted to kill him many times, Jian Wushuang would absolutely not show them any mercy. At that moment, although he had killed quite a number of experts in the soaring heaven king palace and he had forced the experts of the soaring heaven king palace to hole up in their base, it was still not enough. It was far from enough. His flames of fury were not something that could completely subside by just killing a number of Sir Gods and some real gods. He wanted to fight the soaring heaven king palace until they were struck with fear and fight them until they knelt down on the ground to beg for forgiveness. If he had the ability to do so, he even wanted to eliminate the soaring heaven king palace completely. At that moment, Emperor God Xianxiao wanted to stop him with just his words alone. Would that be possible? Jian Wushuang, your techniques are indeed impressive. Even if the soaring heaven king palace wanted to kill you, it would be absolutely difficult for us to do so. However, this does not mean that the soaring heaven king palace will really be afraid of you. The background of the soaring heaven king palace is not something that you can imagine. Emperor God Xianxiao's voice was ice cold. With a flip of his palm, he took out a token. Jian Wushuang's eyes squinted. Jian Wushuang, didn't you ask me on what grounds? Let me tell you that it's this token in my hand, Emperor God Xianxiao laughed coldly. After that, he exerted force in his palm and crushed the token right away. The moment the token was crushed, there was no frightening power that was expected to burst forth. It was obvious that the token did not contain any technique that could kill Jian Wushuang. However, after the token was destroyed, an aura spread slowly. The aura was completely different from that of a Sir God or an Emperor God. It was a supreme aura which could stand at the top of the eternal chaotic world. The aura only belonged to one kind of realm and it was called Great Emperor. The aura of a Great Emperor expert? Jian Wushuang's expression changed abruptly. Under his attention, a huge, cold and arrogant figure took shape slowly. She was more than 5 meters tall and curvaceous. Moreover, she had a beautiful face and possessed indescribable elegance and nobility. As soon as she appeared in the void, her eyes, which could cause serious injuries to everything by looking down at them, swept over the area. Everyone, including the Star Palace Master as well as Emperor God Xianxiao, who her eyes swept past, could not help but lower their heads. Even if it were Jian Wushuang, no matter how unwilling he was, he could only lower his head at that moment. I am Xianxiao. Greetings to Colored Glaze Emperor. Emperor God Xianxiao was the first person to bow down and greet the elegant woman. Greetings to Colored Glaze Emperor. Similarly, many experts of the Soaring Heaven King Palace greeted her respectfully. Jian Wushuang's expression was a bit ugly. However, he still bowed to her respectfully. There was no choice. The abilities of a great emperor-level supreme existence were right there. Not mentioning Jian Wushuang, even if the underworld god who was the number one among the emperor gods was present, he would need to greet her respectfully. You are Jian Wushuang? The colored glaze emperor's eyes was not filled with any feeling at all. She was looking down at Jian Wushuang as though she was looking down at an ant. That's right. Jian Wushuang nodded his head. The Soaring Heaven King Palace once forced you into a hopeless situation. However, you have already killed 4 Sir gods as well as many real gods of the Soaring Heaven King Palace. Hence, the grudge is resolved. From today, unless the Soaring Heaven King Palace provokes you again, you shall not kill any experts of the Soaring Heaven King Palace within the Colored Glaze Sanctuary. If you go against this, you'll die. An ice-cold voice reverberated across the universe. Every word contained an infinite amount of God power, and so much pressure was exerted on everyone that they were suffocating. After her words left her mouth, the colored glaze emperor's figure dissipated slowly and completely turned into nothingness in the END. It was not until the colored glaze emperor's shadow dissipated that the large number of cultivators present heaved a long sigh of relief. Jian Wushuang got up. As he looked in the direction that the colored glaze emperor had left in, his expression turned gloomy. Ha ha. Jian Wushuang, did you hear the colored glaze emperor's words clearly? Emperor God Xianxia's laughter, filled with ridicule, could be heard. His eyes then looked at Jian Wushuang with disdain. I have said before that the background of the Soaring Heaven King Palace is not as simple as you think. The Soaring Heaven King Palace has been dominating the Colored Glaze Sanctuary for many years. Moreover, we have occupied 2 pieces of land. For us to be able to do this, how would we not be related to the Colored Glaze Emperor at all? Jian Wushuang had an ugly expression. He had not expected the Soaring Heaven King Palace to make such a move. Since a great emperor had come personally, even if it were him, he would be worried about it. Jian Wushuang. Emperor God Xianxiao's voice could be heard again. The colored glaze emperor's orders are clear. If you dare to continue killing the experts of the Soaring Heaven King Palace in the colored glaze sanctuary, even without the Soaring Heaven King Palace taking action, the colored glaze emperor will definitely take action personally to kill you. Jian Wushuang, although you are strong, won't it still be easy for a great emperor to kill you? Now, it's time for you to make a decision. Will you fight, or will you retreat? Chapter 1778. Decision: War or Retreat. Emperor God Xianxiao's voice reverberated in Clear Sky City and also in Jian Wushuang's heart. In Clear Sky City, Countess cultivators fixed their gazes on Jian Wushuang. Everyone was waiting for Jian Wushuang's decision. Before everyone's gaze, Jian Wushuang's face was gloomy. There was chilliness in his eyes as murderous intention soared from his body. Jian Wushuang was dying to continue the massacre. He wanted to strike terror into Soaring Heaven King Palace's heart and kill until no one dared to leave the lair anymore. However, his rationality was telling him clearly that Great Emperor Colored Glaze would come forward personally, and he would definitely be set against Great Emperor Colored Glaze if he were to continue the massacre. With his power then, it was no doubt a hopeless battle if he were to fight with the Great Emperor. He didn't even have the space to struggle, nor could anyone save him. Even the Master of Star Palace might not stand a chance to stay alive in the hands of a great emperor, let alone Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, hold on. You must hold on. King of Venomous Worms' voice rang in Jian Wushuang's head. Jian Wushuang, don't act on impulse. The Master of Star Palace, who was hidden in the dark, sent him a message too. The dignity of a great emperor does not allow provocation. Great Emperor Colored Glaze came forward personally to give an order. If you were to go against her, Great Emperor Colored Glaze definitely wouldn't hesitate to kill you. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold, but his tightly clenched hands slowly loosened before everyone's attention. The soaring murderous intention instantly dispersed into the air while his face grew calm as though nothing happened. The cultivators at the scene were impressed by the sight. Jian Wushuang has such a strong mental state. He was still raging with murderous intentions. He instantly reined them in and became calm. His emotional intelligence is almost perfect. Jian Wushuang doesn't seem to be carried away by resentment and rage. The cultivators were amazed. They could tell that Jian Wushuang had already reined in his murderous intention, and he naturally didn't intend to continue the massacre. In their viewpoint, it was the wisest choice. Emperor God Xianxiao's smile stiffened and there was a glimpse of chilliness in his eyes. There was also a tinge of regret. At first, he had wanted to provoke Jian Wushuang so that Jian Wushuang would pound at him under anger. Then, the great emperor-colored glaze could kill him and remove the enemy of Soaring Heaven King Palace. Jian Wushuang obviously wasn't fooled by him. Humph, Jian Wushuang, I thought a top genius like you would never yield. But it seems like you are only so, Emperor God Xianxiao sneered. Xianxiao, what's there to be happy about? Jian Wushuang spoke and his voice sounded cold. Emperor God Xianxiao looked at him. Soaring Heaven King Palace, the top force in eternal chaotic world, was cornered into such a position by me, a real god. I even killed 4 of your Sir gods, many real gods and universe gods, but you didn't utter a word about it. In the end, you pleaded to Great Emperor Colored Glaze to come forward on your behalf. Even so, you are not embarrassed to be happy about this? Jian Wushuang smirked. If I were you, I would have found a hole to hide. I wouldn't dare to come out and make a fool out of myself. B-starred. Emperor God Xianxiao was angry. Why? Isn't it true? If you Soaring Heaven King Palace didn't plead for Great Emperor Colored Glaze to come forward, do you think you would have a chance to stand in front of me and speak to me? The experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace get to return alive, Jian Wushuang teased. Emperor God Xianxiao was raging with anger, but he suppressed his anger. He knew that Jian Wushuang was provoking him. If he were to take action against Jian Wushuang would instantly stand a chance to counterattack. Humph, I can't be bothered to talk to you. In short, if you kill anyone from Soaring Heaven King Palace again, just you wait and bear Great Emperor Colored Glaze's rage, Emperor God Xianxiao bellowed. Emperor God Xianxiao, I think you misunderstood Great Emperor Colored Glaze. She said that under the circumstance where Soaring Heaven King Palace doesn't take the initiative to provoke me, I can't kill the experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace within Colored Glaze Sanctuary. In other words, out of Colored Glaze Sanctuary, Great Emperor Colored Glaze won't care who I want to kill, Jian Wushuang said coolly. Emperor God Xianxiao stunned. Yes? Great Emperor Colored Glaze did say so. Great Emperor Colored Glaze only restricted Jian Wushuang within Colored Glaze Sanctuary. She prohibited him to continue the massacre in her territory, but if he were to head to other places, Great Emperor Colored Glaze couldn't get involved. As long as Colored Glaze Sanctuary settles down, you can't tell who will be the one killing when you run into experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace wandering outside, Emperor God Xianxiao said. Emperor God Xianxiao was confident. His brother Emperor God Qianling was in a crucial period. As long as he gave Emperor God Qianling some time, he would be able to reach the level of Underworld God. By then, when Emperor God Qianling returned, wouldn't it be an easy task to kill Jian Wushuang? If so, I shall wait and see. Jian Wushuang glanced at Emperor God Xianxiao. Then, he turned and walked out of the city. The cultivators in Clear Sky City saw that Jian Wushuang was leaving and they became quiet. They knew that Jian Wushuang had no alternative. They could accept the outcome, however. What they didn't know was that Jian Wushuang's face immediately turned gloomy the moment he turned around. Soaring Heaven King Palace and Great Emperor Colored Glaze. Jian Wushuang's eyes glistened. Power. It comes down to the fact that I'm not powerful enough. Experts of Great Emperor level came forward personally and I couldn't go against her instruction but could only obey. If I were to become more powerful, it would be needless for me to become a Great Emperor and I would only need to reach the level of Underworld God, then I'd be able to fight against a Great Emperor. I could even survive in the fight with a Great Emperor. By then, I can be fearless before Great Emperor Colored Glaze. Even if she wanted to stop me, I can just ignore her. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. He possessed the fighting power of a Sir God and he was on the 61 place on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. He was already on the peak of eternal chaotic world. However, Jian Wushuang thought that he wasn't powerful enough. He still couldn't fight with a Great Emperor. When Great Emperor Colored Glaze gave an order, even though he harbored great resentment and felt aggrieved, he could only suppress it in his heart and leave. Soaring Heaven King Palace, I shall let you off the hook this time. However, it doesn't mean our resentment has ended. Just you wait. In no time, I will attack again. By then, I will flip Soaring Heaven King Palace upside down and kill all experts from Soaring Heaven King Palace. And, Great Emperor Colored Glaze, You are stronger than me today. I have no choice but to retreat when you ask me to, but it's only a matter of time. I will crush you, a great emperor, under my foot. This day definitely won't be too far away. Chapter 1779. Ancient Mystery Land. Under the attention of many people, Jian Wushuang left the colored glaze sanctuary. When the news spread to the Thunderbolt Island, experts from countless powerhouses were all extremely shocked. However, no one would look down on Jian Wushuang due to his choice. Instead, all of them admired and commended him. Quite a number of people thought even more highly of Jian Wushuang. After all, a great emperor had come personally. Who would dare to go against her? Jian Wushuang was quite powerful, to the point that he had gotten onto the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. However, he was not a hothead who would act recklessly. It is only by bearing with it for a short period of time one will have the chance to get to that supreme level in the future. This was what Sir God Mad Dog, who was on good terms with Jian Wushuang, said when he got the news. For this battle, be it talents, abilities, or nature, Jian Wushuang has no doubt shown us all of them. If he doesn't die along the way, he will definitely become a great emperor in the future. If he is able to obtain the training method for the 7th step of an inverse cultivator, it will not be difficult for him to achieve the level of a great emperor. Moreover, there might even be hope for him to reach a level close to emperor by in the future. Jian Wushuang is the #1 genius of the current era. Countless experts were gasping in admiration, and all of them had very high expectations of him. 10 days after Jian Wushuang had left the colored glaze sanctuary, the attention of the experts of all the powerhouses in the eternal chaotic world shifted from Jian Wushuang to something else. An even bigger incident had occurred in the eternal chaotic world. The ancient mystery land is about to appear. This piece of news was like a storm which spread instantly. In the Purple Moon Sanctuary, there were tens of figures standing in the vast Milky Way of the Starland. These figures were all deacon elders of the Starland as well as some chaotic real gods. As for the 3 people in front, they were the 3 Hall Masters. Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Jiu Xin and Hall Master Shiyun were all standing over there, and all their faces wore smiles. In no time, 2 shadows appeared on a void that was far away. They were Jian Wushuang and the Star Palace Master. Ha ha, let's welcome our hero back. Hall Master Yuan laughed heartily. As for the elder deacons behind, they revealed scorching hot eyes which were filled with admiration. They had long known the news of Jian Wushuang massacring many experts of the Soaring Heaven King Palace wantonly in the Soaring Heaven Land and Sea continent. With regards to that, all the elder deacons were naturally inspired. It should be known that the Soaring Heaven King Palace had always been very unreasonable. Throughout the ages, they had always been the ones bullying others. Hence, when had they been bullied by others to the point that they had to use their trump card and that many of their experts were massacred? Thus, this had helped to vent the anger of the lineage of Star as well as many experts of the powerhouses in the Sanctuary Alliance who had once suffered losses in the hands of the Soaring Heaven King Palace. In particular, when they knew that Jian Wushuang had fought all the way to the Soaring Heaven Masnian alone and had killed 4 Almighties of the Soaring Heaven King Palace, all of them had been extremely shocked. Every Almighty was a super existence. Even if it were a big powerhouse like the Soaring Heaven King Palace, they only had a total of 11 Almighties and 4 of them had been killed by Jian Wushuang in such a short amount of time. Even though Jian Wushuang had no choice but to stop his massacre due to the colored glaze emperor coming personally later on, he could already be considered brilliant with these accomplishments. Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Jiu Xin and Hall Master Shiyun, why are the 3 of you here? Jian Wushuang appeared in front of everyone. We have come here to welcome you and the Palace Master back. Hall Master Yuan laughed. Hall Master Wushuang alone has killed 4 Sir Gods of the Soaring Heaven King Palace, and his power can match the power of the Soaring Heaven King Palace. He. Impressive. Hall Master Shiyun gasped in admiration. Hall Master Wushuang, you are really admirable. Hall Master Jiu Xin looked over. Please stop mocking me. Jian Wushuang laughed indifferently. All right, let's continue talking in the cave, the Star Palace Master who was by the side said. Hall Master Yuan and his group of people nodded their heads. After that, everyone headed inside the Milky Way. Within the extremely exquisite and spacious cave, the Star Palace was sitting at the highest point. As for the 4 Hall Masters, which included Jian Wushuang below, they were sitting around randomly. Jian Wushuang, this time around, you have killed 4 almighties of the Soaring Heaven King Palace, and you can be said to have inflicted heavy losses on them. Although the Soaring Heaven King Palace is unable to do anything against you for now, and they can only request the Colored Glaze Emperor to come personally to get you to stop, you cannot underestimate the Soaring Heaven King Palace just because of this. The Star Palace Master looked at Jian Wushuang. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded his head and said, currently, Emperor God Xianxia is the strongest person in the Soaring Heaven King Palace. This Emperor God Xianxia is considered nothing. The real person that the Soaring Heaven King Palace relies on should be Emperor God Qianling. It's good that you know. The Star Palace Master nodded his head. Emperor God Qianling is ranked 22nd on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. I have fought with him before, and his abilities are indeed considerably stronger than mine. Moreover, I have obtained information that this Emperor God Qianling seemed to have found some opportunities in the second layer over the past few years. Hence, his abilities might have risen. If he were to come out from the second layer in the future, there is a very high possibility of him coming to find you. As such, you had better take some precautions as well. Understood. Jian Wushuang nodded his head again. He was not concerned about Emperor God Xianxiao. However, Emperor God Qianling indeed had the right to attract his attention. In addition, I have a matter that I need all of you to know. The Star Palace Master's expression turned grave abruptly. I have just gotten a piece of news from the Sanctuary Alliance. In 10 years, the Ancient Mystery Land will open. Ancient Mystery Land? Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Jiu Xin and Hall Master Shiyun were all shocked. Only Jian Wushuang did not understand why it was so shocking. He had never heard of the Ancient Mystery Land. However, since the word ancient was mentioned, it was definitely related to the ancient past. The ancient past is the most powerful and prosperous era of this universe. There were countless experts. During that era, even great emperors were considered nothing. However, for whatever reason, a great battle burst forth in the ancient past, and this caused the whole era to collapse completely. Moreover, even many territories of the ancient past were completely reduced to a battlefield. These ancient battlefields contain many secrets and opportunities of the ancient past. As such, to cultivators of the second era like us, they are extremely attractive. In the eternal chaotic world, there are quite a number of known ancient battlefields. The second layer to 8th layer are probably territories from the ancient past that have been destroyed. For example, the Buddhist Demon Sea in the 6th layer has been said to come about due to an ancient battlefield collapsing. The Star Palace Master's voice reverberated within the cave. Upon hearing the Buddhist Demon Sea, Jian Wushuang could not help but recall the 2 shocking experts who were hidden in the deepest part of the Buddhist Demon Sea. To Jian Wushuang, those 2 experts were so powerful that it was earth-shaking. Even if there were a great emperor expert, he would be considered nothing in front of them. As for the 1-star man who was one of the 2 experts, he had rescued him and given him an opportunity. At that time, from what the Star Palace Master had said, Jian Wushuang could confirm that the 2 experts, which was inclusive of the 1-star man in the Buddhist Demon Sea, were experts from the ancient past. However, they had always been in a deep sleep. They were the same as Long Chi's master, the 7-star Black Sex super expert who had been in a deep sleep in the standalone space in the dark region of the 8th layer's core region. Chapter 1780. Great Opportunity in the Cave Dwelling. The Master of Star Palace continued casually. Of course, no matter if it is Buddhist Demon Sea or other places, they are only miniature territories that broke from the true ancient battlefield, just like a drop of ocean water from a boundless ocean. In eternal chaotic world, there are 2 known boundless ancient battlefields that are more complete. First, there is the first layer. The first layer is an ancient battlefield that contains boundless opportunity. However, the first layer was conquered by the Star Demon tribe long ago, and it is the Star Demon tribe's old lair. Even a great emperor would have scruples and not rush in easily. Over the years, Sanctuary Alliance has only searched through a small part of the territory in the first layer. Besides the first layer, there's another ancient battlefield, which is the Ancient Mystery Land that will only open every 5 million years. Ancient Mystery Land is much bigger than the first layer, and the opportunities within are countless. Every time it opens, it will attract many experts to flood in. Same goes for this time. Then, the Master of Star Palace paused and overlooked. Then, among the 4 Hall Masters, Hall Master Jiu Xin and Hall Master Nai Yun revealed passionate expressions, especially Hallmaster Nai Yun. His eyes were bloodshot. Ancient battlefield had a great attraction for great emperors, let alone Hallmaster Nai Yun. If the first lair wasn't conquered by star demons and was too dangerous, many Sir God would go into the first lair to try their luck without hesitation. Ancient Mysteryland didn't have any star demons and it was much bigger than the first lair, and also had more opportunities. The two Sir Gods were, of course, crazy about it. However, in contrast to the two Hallmasters, Hallmaster Yuan looked cold and remained aloof about Ancient Mysteryland. He wasn't a Sir God, nor did he want to go to Ancient Mysteryland. As for Jian Wushuang, he looked equally unmoved. Ancient Mysteryland isn't as dangerous as the first lair. Hence, even Sir Gods can head in. You might get a lot of opportunities if you are lucky. So, of the four of you, would anyone like to head into Ancient Mysteryland? The Master of Star Palace asked. Hallmaster Nai Yun stood up without hesitation. I'd like to go too, Hallmaster Jiu Xin said. As for Hallmaster Yuan and Jian Wushuang, neither spoke. To Hallmaster Yuan, the Master of Star Palace didn't ask much, but he looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, among almighties in lineage of star, your power is second to mine. If you were to wander in Ancient Mysteryland, you would stand a higher possibility of getting an opportunity. Unless you are not interested in Ancient Mysteryland? I'm definitely interested, but not now. I have been fighting all this while and I am really tense. I want to relax and it has been very long since I left my hometown. I plan to return to my hometown to take a look. As for Ancient Mysteryland, let's talk about it after I return from my hometown. Jian Wushuang smiled and said. You were first besieged by Soaring Heaven King Palace in the 8th lair, then Akron Palace tried to assassinate you in Buddhist Demon Sea. Now, you have been fighting with Soaring Heaven King Palace. You really should relax for a bit. The Master of Star Palace was understanding. Palace Master, you would go personally during this opening of Ancient Mysteryland, right? Hallmaster Yuan suddenly said. The Master of Star Palace nodded. I will wander personally during the opening of Ancient Mysteryland and I intend to explore the 7-star realm. 7-star realm? Jian Wushuang was surprised. It's named after 7-star. Could it be related to 7-star Black Sect? Hallmaster Nai Yun and Hallmaster Jiu Xin were confused too. Things have reached this stage, so I shall not keep it a secret to all of you. Many years ago I received secret skill of 7-star in 7-star realm and also a unique treasure. The Master of Star Palace smiled. Hallmaster Nai Yun and Hallmaster Jiu Xin were surprised. 7-star realm was left behind by an ancient force called 7-star Black Sect. The opportunities contained were far beyond secret skill of 7-star. It's a pity that 7-star Black Sect set up a lot of prohibitions in 7-star realm, including many killing formations. I was already lucky enough to obtain secret skill of 7-star and the unique treasure. All these years, although 7-star realm was opened many times and I went in to explore as well, I didn't find much. Until 5 million years ago, which was the previous opening of the Ancient Mysteryland. I finally found a new opportunity in 7-star realm and the opportunity was extraordinary. It's a pity that there's a prohibition outside the opportunity. Then, I didn't prepare much, so I didn't get my hands onto the opportunity even until Ancient Mysteryland closed. However, it's different this time. In the past 5 million years, I have been well prepared. If there's no accident, I should be able to resolve the prohibition and obtain the opportunity within. By then, my overall power will definitely increase tremendously and I might even reach the level of Great Emperor. The Master of Star Palace beamed with joy. Jian Wushuang, Hallmaster Yuan, Hallmaster Jiu Xin, and Hallmaster Nai Yun looked surprised when they heard him. An opportunity greater than the secret skill of 7-star? If the Master of Star Palace got his hands on it, he stood a chance to become a Great Emperor? Great Emperor was one of the strongest people in eternal chaotic world. If there were to be another Great Emperor in lineage of Star, the overall power would definitely reach another brand new level. They might even overtake forces like Soaring Heaven King Palace. After all, although Soaring Heaven King Palace was strong, they were nothing in front of a Great Emperor. A Great Emperor could easily destroy the entire Soaring Heaven King Palace alone. 7-star realm is unusual. Palace Master has to be extremely cautious in his actions, Hallmaster Yuan said. Don't worry. I know, The master of Star Palace smiled, and he was obviously confident in his trip. Jiyu Xin, Nai Yun, and I will be heading to Ancient Mystery Land, while Jian Wushuang will be returning to his hometown. You will have to take care of Lineage of Star alone for now, the master of Star Palace said. Yes, Hall Master Yuan nodded. All right, we shall finish here. Jiyu Xin and Nai Yun, both of you get ready. 10 years later, head to Ancient Mystery Land with me, the master of Star Palace exhorted. Hall Master Jiyu Xin and Hall Master Nai Yun nodded simultaneously. Then, the four of them left. In the cave dwelling, there was only the master of Star Palace left. The master of Star Palace then fixed his gaze in the distance, and he pondered, in deep thought. Lineage of Star has too many enemies in eternal chaotic world, especially the possession of the secret skill of Star Palace. Countless experts and forces hankered for it. Even experts at the level of Great Emperor have thoughts about it. In addition to that, Jian Wushuang's sudden rise led to more people who have scruples about Lineage of Star. In such a situation, only if I become a Great Emperor could Lineage of Star be safe and sound. The opening of Ancient Mystery Land this time is a turning point. I definitely have to get the opportunity in 7-star realm.